Martin Bakole stops Rodney Hernandez in the second round. Very good performance from Martin Bakole. He took this fight on short notice. But to say short notice, Joshua Buatsi was originally set to be on this card, and he had to pull out due to, I think it was an injury. And I'm not sure if, I think they might have even said it when they fought Kevin Johnson there about 2 weeks ago back in Newcastle, that they'd be willing to fight on the next card. And obviously the call came from Martin Bakole. He wasn't out of shape. I think he was a pound lighter than he was when he fought Johnson. So obviously he stayed in the gym, stayed active, took this fight, and he fought Rodney Hernandez. This fight nearly didn't happen at the start, purely because both guys were doing very intense stare. They refused to touch gloves, and the referee, Steve Gray, said, well, until you touch gloves, this fight ain't starting. And the minute this fight started, you could argue that Hernandez actually won the first round, because he really did try and put it on Martin Bakole. But he wasn't doing an awful lot. That's the best way to describe it. He tried to put it on Martin Bakole, back up into a corner. But it was almost like he was hoping Bakole wouldn't be able to punch with him, because he wasn't really punching either. And Bakole looked calm, he looked composed. He wasn't shifting any punches. He was just kind of, in the corner, throwing a few little shots here and there to the body on Hernandez. And that was kind of how the first round went. There really wasn't anything to talk about in the first round. Purely from an aggressive point of view, you could say Hernandez won that. Then we go into the second round, and Bakole just started throwing punches, finding range, landed some very, very good uppercuts on Hernandez, and you could tell those shots were having an effect. But Bakole strikes me as a very heavy-handed fighter, because he doesn't really lean into his punch. He doesn't really rotate a lot when he's throwing these shots, but you can tell that they're having a hurtful effect. So he strikes me as someone who's just a very, very heavy-handed fighter. And, you could tell Hernandez was getting a bit uncomfy in there just from what Bakole was doing. And eventually it told. He went down, and the referee quite rightly waved the fight off. And I think that makes Bakole only the second person to stop Hernandez, because I'm on his box rec here. He's 13-8-2. Had a fight there in July against Joey DeWaco. And the only other person to stop him. The only other person to stop him was F.A. Ajagba. F.A. Ajagba stopped him in 5 rounds. He's been in there with guys like Kuzman, guys like Kalnaki. He's been in there with Michael Hunter. And the thing that I kind of find amazing is he's taking rounds off these guys. He took a couple of rounds off Kalnaki, took a couple of rounds off Hunter. Close fight with Joey DeWaco. Joey DeWaco on 2 cards, he only won that fight by 2 points. So this Hernandez guy, he's one of them journeymen who come to fight. Obviously doesn't have the skills to be able to do it the whole time, but he seemed out of his depth in there with Bakole. Bakole very... the more I see Bakole, the more I'm impressed by him. You see the Michael Hunter defeat, and I think a few people started writing him off, but he had an injury in that fight. I think he picked it up in the fight, but I would imagine it was probably pre-existing, because most fighters go into camp with injuries. But Michael Hunter, we know, he's a world level heavyweight. A world level heavyweight is Michael Hunter, so there's no shame in losing to him. It was the trainer at Bakole, Billy Nelson. I think he was Billy Nelson in the Hunter fight who wouldn't pull Bakole out, even though he clearly had an injury, which kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. Now, I think he's still with Billy Nelson, so we'll see how that relationship goes. It does worry me when you see a trainer, you can clearly see a fighter's injured. This is going back to the Bakole Hunter fight. When you can clearly see a fighter's injured, the trainer doesn't pull him out. That's when questions start getting asked. But since then, Bakole's looked good. As I said, he's got a stoppage win over Kevin Johnson, amongst others. So the more I see Bakole, the more impressed I get by him, and the more I think, who's out there for him to fight? Are there people like, we'll say, a Sam Sexton, or even a David Price at this stage? If Price is willing to go down and fight at domestic level, how would David Price compare with someone against like a Martin Bakole? Bakole very good. He strikes me being very calm. He can fight in the pocket. Very good fighter, Martin Bakole. I'm liking him more and more as I see him. So that's my thoughts on this. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down below. Have you seen much of Bakole? Do you rate him? What do you think? Let me know down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.